These are notes on calculating volume for prisms and cylinders. We're going to start with the formula, which looks like this, and we're going to break apart what each piece represents. So capital V is going to represent volume of a prism for these notes. So we'll add that in. And then for our two capital letters B and H, capital B represents area of the base. That's different from lowercase b, which is just a side length. And capital H represents height of the prism. So we'll go ahead and add that in as well. And now when we bring down the equal sign and a multiplication symbol, since that's really what BH represents is area of the base times the height, we have this formula. Please make sure that you're actually thinking about this as area of the base multiplied by height of the prism. This is different from base times height, so just be careful when you're talking about it. Okay, first example, we just have a rectangular prism. For all of these, we're going to continue with our four-step process. So we will begin by just writing volume equals area of the base multiplied by height of the prism. And if we're looking at base of a rectangular prism, we can go ahead and use this rectangle right here. So if you know the area of that, you can think about these being stacked on top of each other until you get all the way to the top. So that represents height of the prism. So step one is writing our formula. Step two, we're going to plug in area of the base, which would be 8 times 6. And then we're going to take that amount and multiply it by the height of the prism, which is 15. Okay, for step 3, we can go ahead and work out our solution. And when we do all that multiplying, we're going to get 720. And then for step 4, we need to include the units, which would be yards cubed since we're talking about volume. So I would write that as yards raised to the third power. That would be cubic yards because really volume is looking at how many cubes would fit inside of this figure. Okay, next example, we're going to look at a triangular prism. So we'll start off same way as before with our formula. Volume equals area of the base times height of the prism. On this triangular prism, we need to be a little bit careful. It might be tempting to say that this is the base because that's the one on the bottom, but it's not. It's a triangular prism, so this triangle right here, that represents the base. So remember that the base is going to be the face where you have two of them parallel to each other. So that would be this triangular prism right here. So on our formula for area of the base, since it's a triangle, that would be base times height divided by 2. Now notice how I have lowercase b and lowercase h. Those represent my side lengths of 5 and 12 meters. So I can go ahead and plug those in. 5 times 12, all divided by 2, that's the base. And then I'm going to multiply it by the height, which is 9. So even though it's not a vertical height, it's still the length that's connecting the two bases. So our height is going to be 9 meters. Okay, we'll go ahead and work that out. And when we multiply all of those values together, we're going to get 270. And then for volume, we need meters cubed, meters to the third power. All right, next one, we have a figure with 6 sides, so this is a hexagonal prism. We'll still use our same formula. Volume is area of the base multiplied by height of the prism. This one's a little bit different than the others because they actually gave us this area. They gave us capital B, and we don't need to find that. So the black shaded in part, we have 2 of those that are congruent and parallel, so that represents area of the base, and then the height is going to be 20 feet. So for this one, all we need to do is plug in area of the base is 166, and height is 20. So we'll go ahead and multiply 166 by 20, and that comes out to 3,220, and then this is going to be feet cubed. Okay, next we have a cylinder. Even though it's not technically a prism, it's still going to be using our same volume formula because we have two parallel and congruent faces on it. That would be our circles. So we have volume equals area of the base times the height. And this time area of our circle is going to be pi multiplied by radius squared. So we'll go ahead and plug that in for base. Pi times radius squared, which is 3. That will give area of the base times height, which is 6. I'm going to multiply out the constants first. So if I do 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 6 is 54. So I'm going to get 54 times pi. And then I can go ahead and multiply 54 by 3.14. And that will give a value of 169 and 56 hundredths. And then units for that will be meters cubed. So still same process, we just need to remember pi r squared for area of a circle. All right, next one, we have the volume, but we need to work backwards to find the side length. So we'll still start with volume equals area of the base times height of the prism, and we can actually plug in what we know. So the volume is 80 cubic feet. So I'm going to substitute that in place of capital V. So we'll put 80 equals, and then area of the base would be this rectangle right here. So that area would be 4 times 5. And then we're going to multiply that by the height, which is what we don't know yet, so times x. Okay, and now we can go ahead and start solving. So 80 and equals stay the same. 4 times 5 is 20. So if 80 equals 20x, after you divide by 20 on each side, you get a value of 4. And then looking at our figure right here, this is just a side length. So our final answer would be 4 feet. So not cubic feet because that's for volume, but our side length is just going to be 4 linear feet. All right, and final one. This time we have a triangular prism that we're finding a side length on. So again, start with volume equals area of the base multiplied by height of the prism, and we'll plug in what we know. So 20 cubic feet represents the volume. Plug that in underneath the V. Area of the base is going to be a triangle. So remember, triangular prism, this is the base because this is the one that you have two congruent sides on. So area of that front triangle would be little b times little h. So the side length base times the side length height divided by 2. So given the numbers that we have, base is x, height is 2, and then we'll divide that by 2. And then the height, we also know that value. Height is the one connecting the two triangles, so that's going to be 4. All right, and on this one, we can actually simplify this part right here. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so this value would be the same as just x. And then I can bring down multiplied by 4 and equals 20. So 20 equals x times 4. Divide by 4 on each side. So you get a value of 5 equals x. And then looking back at our figure, that's going to be in linear inches. So x, or the base of your triangle, represents 5 inches. All right, those are your video notes for volume. Be sure you're always starting with your formula. Volume equals area of the base times the height, and from there plug in what you know and solve for what you don't. Thank you for watching.